What is up, English 10 students? I'm going to talk to you for a second about 3x3 themes and how to put them together. The idea of a 3x3 theme is that and I'm going to put it up here at the top so that it looks nice. There, see, doesn't that look so much better? The idea of a 3x3 theme is that it takes what we typically do with themes at this level and it adds an extra layer. It makes it more arguable, it's better for your writing, and it's more nuanced. So let's talk about it. Typically, when people come up with themes, a lot of the times what 10th graders will do is they will have two main ideas that affect one another within the play or within a piece of work, reading or writing, within a work. And they'll put verses in the middle of it. So, for example, in the Loons, you have like the idea of knowledge versus racism, right? Now, like Vanessa has some racist ideas about Piquette because she's never met an indigenous person or doesn't have much experience with indigenous people, and so she thinks that she's going to be some sort of in tune with nature spirit guide that will lead her. And in reality, Piquette's just a kid with a messed up home life and who's just like her in a lot of ways, but with some more problems, some more challenges in her house. And so like Vanessa's originally disappointed with her. She says as an Indian, she's a dead loss, right? And like that's just her expecting her to be a cartoon indigenous person. In reality, she's a real person. And as she gains knowledge, it interrupts that. It undercuts that and it replaces it. So what we do with a 3x3 theme is instead, we have our two ideas that interact with one another, knowledge and racism. But in the middle, instead of verses just says these two things interact. We want to be more specific. So let's put a verb that represents how they interact. And, when you get to do this, flip them if you need to. You may write it down and realize, I need to flip them to make it work or whatever. That's fine. Or you may need to switch one idea with a different one. So what does knowledge do to racism in this story, or how do they interact? Well, knowledge undercuts it is the word I used earlier, or it erodes it. I like erodes. That's going to lead to a really amazing essay if I was to write an essay about it. Knowledge erodes racism, right? Now there's a theme. That's a statement that I can argue and I can back it up with text examples and all kinds of stuff, right? So, let's try a different one. Let's use for this example the Disney film Cars, to pick something that my kids watch all the time, but probably you all are familiar with on some level. In the movie Cars, you have two ideas at play. You have the idea of community and the idea of individualism, right? Lightning McQueen represents individuality. And the cars that are in Radiator Springs represent community. And again, a typical 10th grader for their theme paper over Cars would write community versus individuality. But we're going to go one step above it. We're going to put a verb in there that describes the way those two things interact. In the movie, Lightning McQueen starts as this individual, selfish, one-man show kind of athlete. And by bonding with this small town and the people there and seeing how they interact with one another and making friends and gaining a true friend in Mater, he realizes that he doesn't have to be that guy. In fact, it's worse to be that guy, that there are more important things. So if we want to describe the way those two things interact, well, community sort of makes individuality obsolete. It makes it erases it. What's the best word here? Actually, to think about it more, it doesn't erase it, but it makes it less important. So let's put a $5 word that I've got in my pocket here. It supersedes it. So we have community supersedes individuality. It is more important to be a member of the community than to be some flashy individual. Ka-chow. So how do you do 3x3 themes? Well, I've just showed you, right? You come up with two ideas that are related in the story, and then in the middle of it, instead of verses, you put a verb that describes the way that they interact in the story.